Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third episode of Humanizing Autonomy's Behavior AI series. I'm Kim Vigilia, and thanks for joining us today. At the heart of this series is the idea of human centricity and how we can design and demand technology that places people as the priority. In previous episodes, we discussed how ethical behavior AI uses carefully curated methodologies and a combination of human versus deep learning algorithms. We also explored applications in the automotive industry, enabling advanced driver assistance systems or ADAS features, such as forward collision warnings and blind spot monitoring systems in real time. And today, we continue our discussion around behavior-based AI and focus on some of the practical applications of this technology for cities, as well as the ethicality of the insights that are extracted or analyzed as part of the process. The main principle behind behavior AI is understood in two statements. The first, if a machine understood a person's behavior or situational context better, then it could respond more intuitively to that person. And the second statement, in order to better understand that person, the machine needs to see that person and what's happening around them, thus the need for computer vision. So with behavior AI, we imagine what we could do if the cameras within machines could understand the people it sees and to respond as intuitively as a person would. In today's fireside chat, we'll discuss the technological challenges that cities are faced with when building efficient, effective, and livable places, and some of the key factors driving their use of AI. We'll also explore some of the potential applications for cities and its positive impact on road safety, traffic congestion, and in the prevention of risky incidents. You'll hear from our guest speaker from Cetisia, as well as a quick thought from the General Director representing the city of Cali. So let's begin. I am pleased to introduce Simon Franco, a Colombian-British industrial engineer and businessman who has led the creation and development of more than 20 organizations in the transit sector across Colombia, the UK, the US, Brazil, and Panama. Simon is the CEO of Cetisia, a Colombia-based engineering company that works with cities and local authorities to integrate solutions to support and improve efficiencies for mobility, transit systems, tolls, vehicle identification, mass transportation, and more. Joining Simon in conversation is Maya Pendeas, an architect, designer, and engineer with a deep passion for human-machine interactions. She is the CEO and co-founder of Humanizing Autonomy, a London-based company that specializes in teaching machines to infer and predict human behavior in order to improve decision-making processes within semi to fully automated technology. Simon, Maya, welcome.
Hello, Kim. Thank you very much for your kind introduction, and good morning to everyone in Colombia and good afternoon to everyone in the UK.
Hi, Kim. Thanks a lot.
It's great to have you both. So I'm going to jump right into it. Simone, first question is for you. You've worked with cities and local authorities for a very long time. From your perspective, what have been the most important shifts or trends you've seen in cities and how governments are using tech to improve the quality and efficiency of cities?
Yes, well, cities are facing huge challenges nowadays, especially, I think, in mobility. More than 1.4 million deaths, road safety deaths we have in the world at the moment. More than 50 million injured people are getting on the streets every part of the world. Also in Colombia, now it's #1 death cause in the country. So it's a huge problem. There's a huge problem also in terms of population. In the next decade, 70% of the population will live in cities. So the growth pace of the people, of the growth in the population, and the pace of the vehicle fleet, the increase of the vehicle fleet in the cities, it's huge compared to the pace that we have in terms of infrastructure, no? To build new roads or build new bridges or build new commuting opportunities for the citizens. So it's beginning to, some years ago, it's beginning to be a big issue. So that's where technology makes like a good difference. because you will, cost benefit wise talking about, you can get good solutions and you can increase road safety so that people doesn't get killed in the cities. New offers for commuting, so to reduce your time in commuting, and also to bring like different opportunities for the citizen to interact with the city, with the government authority, and of course to feel safe. That people doesn't get killed on the streets because of a car accident or a car crash.
I think that's really interesting. And, I'd like to bring Maya into this conversation, because part of Humanizing Autonomy's vision is to enable efficient, safe, and pleasant cities. It's worked with local councils and authorities to achieve this. Maya, what are the core gaps and challenges cities have come to you with when it comes to improving the quality of life of their citizens?
Yeah, as you said, Kim, our mission has always been to build and implement AI solutions that are truly human-centric, ethical, and can be applied to a variety of contexts. So when we look at cities, there's massive challenges that they face. There's a variety of things where we can help. Behavior AI, humanizing autonomy can be applicable. As Simon said, road safety is a massive issue. How can we help reduce accidents, help reduce casualties and liabilities predictively, and with that, help cities achieve Vision Zero goals, but also to increase the quality of life for all citizens. The second big challenge is growth, right? Cities are growing, more and more people are living in cities. So how can we use AI to actually better understand the flow of how and why people move through a city, to make sure that the city adapts to them, and we can help with growth in a way that is actually valuable to the citizen. The third one is the analytics, discovery and analytics, as I like to call it. If something happens, a casualty incident, to understand why it happened, how can you help prevent it next time, the historical piece. And then there's the whole efficiency, operations, supply chain piece, from the moment in the fulfillment center, in the production facility, until items get delivered in front of your home, to actually help systems understand how subjects, objects, and people in cities move and interact to make the supply chain more operation efficient and more resilient. So those are the key topics that I see in cities where I believe human-centric AI and behavior AI can be very applicable.
I think it's really interesting. You both also mention the growth of population as well as the speed of the tech that can help with it. Now, going on to that, intelligent transport systems, Internet of Things, 5G, traffic management systems, are so many moving parts to developing cities of the future. But what do you think is needed to drive this industry forward?
I can hop in there first, Kim. So yeah, I think the technology is there, as you mentioned. So we've been, ITS industry has been developing quite well for the last 4 decades. So we have technology already there. Of course, this decade we're talking about artificial intelligence, or Maya is saying, but I think the key component is to adapt the technology that is available. For instance, one technology that, you can have the best camera, doing enforcement in Switzerland, for instance, but maybe that's not the same camera would not work the same in Bogota, Colombia. So I think it's key to customize those solutions, to understand the need of the region of the city, and then adapt to the local infrastructure, to the local culture, to the local authorities, and then you can get like quick and very efficient results in implementation and of course in operation.
Yeah, Simon, I fully agree with all your points. I think adaptability is really key. Understanding the needs of the stakeholder, understanding the needs of the city, being able to take technology and make it work in a specific region, right? I think it's a great example with applying our behavior AI and now applying this in Colombia across various cities, and with that. There's so many moving parts in general, right? Technology changes so quickly. The needs of cities are big, right? And also evolve, but making sure that we're always close to the stakeholder, making sure that we always look at it adaptively and regionally. I think that's really the most important part here.
I like that. And I wonder if there's something in terms of its impact on the speed at which cities adopt technology. So, Simone, could you start us out with your thoughts on this? There is a lot of technology, as you said. How fast are cities adopting it, though?
Yeah, well, it will depend a lot on the governmental initiatives. So local governments, decision makers, to see if they have like a clear scope on those projects that we would like to implement regarding mobility, regarding road safety. I will say in my experience, and in the case of Latin America, it depends, of course, on how big you want to do it, but you can develop this type of projects in between 6 months or 2 years. I'm not saying implementing, because I think implementing is really fast, because as I told you, the technology is already there. We have 20 years experience of implementing this kind of projects, but it will depend on the process. So the process can be kind of painful, because you will go to a tender process. You will need to have like different entities involved. So that's where the 6 months to 2 years time will take place. That's more or less the timing you're having here.
And just a follow-up for that, for you, Simone. So, what's holding back the faster adoption, or what can we do to speed up the use of this technology?
There's a big issue as well in terms of legislation. So again, the speed of technology is quite faster than the speed of the legislation. So these innovative technologies, these new technologies, that they are available, but the governments are not able to regulate them at the same pace. So I think that's something that is holding back a little bit, and it will take time. So for example, in this market, in terms of artificial intelligence, there's a lot of boom now with the theme and with the terms of the privacy and stuff like that. But I think regulation is getting there, because there's no other way out. I mean, technology is here, you need to adapt it. So legislation needs to be right on the pace, but that's holding back definitely at the moment.
Yeah. And you said a little bit about trust, and I know Maya is you talk a lot about trust and ethicality, how deep that runs. Can you add thoughts to that, and also let us, tell us, why should we or why shouldn't we trust AI?
Yeah, so I think regulation is incredibly important, as Simon said, but the other piece is public trust. The public has a voice, the public has an opinion, particularly with AI being so public now in the last few months. And that's critical, right? To make sure that technologies are understood why they exist, how they're built, how they're applied. I think transparency is absolutely important, in addition to regulation, to increase adoption cycles. But I think in terms of trust, it's about, I think, really understanding what responsible AI means and what it should be, right? What are these principles? So AI should be comprehensive, it should be explainable, it should be ethical, it should be efficient. So for that, for a city, for a government to understand whether technology is all of these things, and for the public to understand, well, is a technology all of these things? Can I trust this? Would I want this in the built environment in the city where I live? There's a lot of work to do. And I think a lot of explaining, a lot of education there. And I think it ranges from the data that is collected, the data that is used to train the technology to help understand what the data is, where this data comes from, but also the proactivity in terms of privacy. For instance, humanizing autonomy, we're incredibly proactive when it comes to privacy, when it comes to trust, when it comes to ethics and responsibility. But that's critical for any artificial intelligence technology as it is implemented into city cycles. And then there's a lot of things that are what you do and what you don't do. Essentially, you can follow all those principles. They're absolutely critical when it comes to building ethical and responsible AI, but also how do you apply artificial intelligence for public good, for societal good? We addressed a few things here, right? From road safety to equipping cities for rapidly growing populations, right? To make sure that technologies are only used for this beneficial applications, but also to communicate that to the public.
I think that's interesting. And I think what we see in AI is that a few not great models really kind of mess up the balance of trust out there. Simone, you've previously talked about the protection of citizens' physical safety as well as their privacy. What do tech providers or technology providers have to be careful about when handling or processing video data or anything that might infringe on that?
I think one of the biggest challenge there is to have like very high-end protocols in terms of cybersecurity attacks, because that's something that will happen a lot. And be very clear on how are you going to use the data, because what we expect is to have, you know, statistics and information of what's happening in the road, but we don't want to check what is the individual, or if some infraction, for example, from traffic violation was made, we don't want to know which individual did it. We want to know that statistics of that number one person that did it. So it's very important to focus on the data in terms of statistics rather than the information of the individual. And that's something, as Maya said, that needs to be clear and very transparent, so people will trust these kind of technologies and this kind of information.
Yeah, and I'd like to also expand it to computer vision, you know, which is the foundation of a lot of this and of behavior AI. Maya, there are some skeptics who see computer vision as synonymous with surveillance. What do people need to understand about computer vision?
Yeah, so in computer vision, what we do is we extract information from video footage, and then we build models to help explain what it means. That's not synonymous with surveillance. If we look at the definition of surveillance, for instance, Cambridge Dictionary definition, then surveillance is the careful watching of a person or place, especially by police or army, because of a crime that has happened or is expected to happen. Now, that is a very specific definition, right? That's surveillance. Computer vision can be used for surveillance if used in a negative way, as we discussed earlier, but computer vision in its essence is, I think, a very incredibly versatile tool to make sense of the world around us. To give you an example, with computer vision, we're able to interpret the behavior of people on the streets of London and to increase road safety, to understand the flow of people and to understand the interactions of people. But we're also able to take this to the streets of Bogota, the streets of Cali, very different contexts. That's something that only computer vision can do. If we were to look at language models, for instance, it would be very difficult because it would be a completely different language. The visual language, however, is similar. So we can use computer vision to adapt to different regions, to different localities, which is one of the massive benefits, right? When we're talking about adaptability. And again, it is very important to be clear how technology should be applied and shouldn't be applied. And from our perspective, it should not be applied to the definition of, as I mentioned before, the definition of surveillance.
Very true points. And you know, it makes me wonder, Simone, in terms of cities, you know, what challenges do cities have with accessing current existing video streams through infrastructure cameras, CCTV, traffic cameras, and using that data? Because, you know, can they even use computer vision?
Yeah, well, the main challenge there is that normally several entities are involved or in charge of operating different type of cameras. So if you want to access to, for example, CCTV cameras, if they are in charge, the police is in charge, for instance. So then you will need to do all the process to access and to give access to the protocols for the cameras. In terms of traffic enforcement cameras, so you will need to go to the mobility secretary to have access to those type of cameras. So it's challenging because you need to articulate several entities and discuss and apply for access with several entities. However, I think the hardware is already there. CCTV is a very clear example. I mean, there are many thousands of cameras in the cities already, in Colombia and elsewhere in the world. So the hardware is there. It's more to articulate different entities.
It sounds like lots of layers and complexity, but Ceticia and Humanizing Autonomy are actually working together on exploring a new product that layers behavior AI with your existing solution portfolio. So Simone, can you tell us a little bit about what the initial driver was in deciding on whether to use and then how to use behavior AI?
Yes, Kim. So we have developed big expertise at SIT with traffic enforcement type of solutions. So more to get the control on traffic infractors or traffic violations on the road. When I met Maya and I met the technology that Maya was developing, I saw a huge opportunity in the prevention side, so that you will anticipate possible accidents or possible infractions or possible traffic violations. So I saw quite a differentiator in the technology. So something that we don't have in the market, for example, is a very interesting feature that it's called the near misses. So it's almost an accident. So a decision maker in the city can, detect if, for instance, in an intersection there were 1,000 near misses, then you will see something happening here. So we need, for example, we need a traffic light, or we need a pedestrian bridge, or stuff like that. So what we saw is that we could combine our experience in the local market and bringing very innovative technology to the market to complement the portfolio that we have already here in the country.
Wanted to share a video from Natalia Ocampo, the General Director of Programa Servicios Tránsito, the logistics and technological operator for the city of Cali, who could share her initial thoughts on this program. So over to you, Natalia.
Hola, buenos días. Bueno, nosotros somos el programa Servicios de Tránsito, somos el operador logístico y tecnológico del sistema inteligente de movilidad de la ciudad de Cali. El foco de nuestra operación está basado en la gestión registral de los trámites del parque automotor circulante en la ciudad y del registro de las infracciones de tránsito que suceden en las vías de Cali. Estos procesos los desarrollamos bajo unas plataformas tecnológicas muy potentes, muy sofisticadas y que nos llevan a una evolución permanente de nuestros procesos que tienen un enfoque absolutamente sistematizado, autónomo y con unos altos estándares en términos de transformación digital. Hace unos 4 meses tuvimos la oportunidad de conocer el aplicativo, la solución, el producto que ofrece Humanizing Autonomy, una solución que está construida bajo el concepto de la inteligencia artificial aplicada a la seguridad vial, y nos pareció absolutamente pertinente iniciar un piloto, una prueba de concepto, y en ello hemos venido trabajando de manera muy consistente, y a la fecha tenemos unos resultados que son bastante positivos y que nos van a permitir dar un salto, digamos, conceptual entre lo que ha sido la gestión de la información, de la Big Data que hemos recaudado nosotros a través de nuestro sistema de fotodetección, y esa bodega de datos que está al servicio de la construcción de políticas públicas y decisión de las autoridades de tránsito. Entonces, tenemos unas conclusiones muy concretas y bastante optimistas con relación a la disponibilidad de esta solución para las autoridades de tránsito en el país, y es así como, por ejemplo, con el uso de 4 cámaras que ya estaban instaladas en puntos estratégicos en zonas relevantes, solamente en el periodo de 1 hora logramos identificar más de 5.000 actores viales, entre los cuales se encuentran peatones, motociclistas, vehículos de distintas características, buses y por supuesto motocicletas, y logramos determinar, gracias a la inteligencia artificial, interacciones y comportamientos que podrían llevar a un desenlace en términos de accidentes viales. Este tipo de análisis de los datos con un enfoque predictivo y de proyección y de prospectiva le va a permitir a las autoridades de tránsito tomar decisiones oportunas, pertinentes y proactivas para la gestión de la movilidad. Seguimos afinando el piloto, pero los pronósticos iniciales que obtuvimos son absolutamente concretos y contundentes, y estamos convencidos de que ese es el futuro de las soluciones tecnológicas para los sistemas de movilidad. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Natalia, for your thoughts, and we're delighted to work with you. Just building on what Natalia mentioned, and kind of a closing question for Simone, selecting a tech partner and co-developing, this idea of human-centric technology has its benefits and lessons. So what are the key things all parties must be aware of and prepared for before venturing into any joint partnership like this?
As I mentioned, in our case, I think that the combination on how we complement with a company as SIT that has all the experience in the market with an innovative company such as Humanizing Autonomy to integrate that solutions into the market, I think that is key. Another thing that is key is that the technology that we are using will bring us useful information. So we collect a lot of data, but the challenge is to, that data converted into information that it's very friendly to use and it's very clear to use, so that decision makers can take or implement the right solutions to prevent many incidents that can happen on a city. And the centric or the behavior AI it's very different, because you will focus on the human behavior, and human behavior, it's a lot of unpredictable variables there. So I think that combination, it's the success, and the example that Natalia was mentioning in Cali, it's quite, it's a real fact that the joint venture is getting the first steps here.
Yeah, actually, my last question and a question from the audience matches. So we'll do one last question and then say goodbye to everyone. So that last question is, how do you think behavior AI will change how cities are developed and shaped from practical to societal?
Yes, I think it's all about making cities better for citizens today, but also actually starting to implement technologies as cities are developed. So for instance, really looking at human centricity wherever we roam in a city, right? How cities are built, from construction, from the planning, to make sure that we make sure the use or the needs of the citizens, of particularly growing amount of citizens, are put into consideration for the planning. As a city is up and running, or as the youth live in a city, to make sure that the city can adapt to adapting needs of people, because that's something that is absolutely key in cities in our time. They're rapidly adapting, technology is adapting, citizen needs are adapting, and it requires technology, I believe, to make sure that we always are able to understand what those needs are and how we should be involving the city from a safety, from an experience perspective. And then we're also looking at, we think of a city, it's not just our streets and the mobility system, etc. It's the home, it's our supermarket, it's our office, it's the mall, everything that is in a city. And we're seeing more and more human-machine interactions everywhere, really, right? With the advance of artificial intelligence, the advance of automated technologies. And there it becomes, how do those technologies interact with us? How can they take our behavior into account? So I think we're going to see behavior AI being much more adaptive to different parts of the city, of the urban fabric, from the roads to actually the spaces and the environments that we live in.
Thank you. That was a nice way to close the session. That's all the time that we have. Simone, Maya, thank you again for joining us. Natalia, thank you for sharing your thoughts. And thank you everyone out there for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, from the team at Humanizing Autonomy, Ceticia, thank you and goodbye. you.